Okay, so today we're going to be talking about extractor cleaning. This is something that is either a very straightforward job or something that can be quite a disgusting job. So this particular unit in question is in pretty good condition today, but I am going to go through some of the things you will need to know should you come across one which is in bad condition. So the first thing you need to establish is what type of extractor you're dealing with. So you've got two different types. You've got your drop-down mesh filters. These are the most common, and in fact are the easiest to clean. So we're going to drop those out and take them over to the sink area. The first thing you're going to need to do is sink these in hot water and the degreaser solution, because whilst you're doing the work on the actual unit, then you're going to want this to start breaking down, so it's less effort to when you come to doing it. The other extractor unit that you come across is called a paper type filter. You generally have a sloped panel. These ones you'll generally find where you've got the cupboard front door that looks like part of the kitchen, and you can pull them forward to expose the extractor, and it's got an auto switch, so as soon as you pull the door open, the extractor fan will kick in. So those type, again, you undo the two bottom screws, pull it forward, drop it down, exactly the same principle. You're removing all of the grease from the extractor first and the filter housing, and you're replacing the paper type filter, and sometimes you get a carbon filter, which is also a second layer on the top of there, a little bit like a felt material. So we're going to concentrate on these ones today. I'll actually do a video at a later date on the paper type filters for you, but we're going to do these. So we're going to need to take them over to the sink, put both the filters in, and then we need to put the degreaser solution in. This particular one, we're just going to wait to pump the air through, so we're going to go for 4 squirts in total. And the reason for this is we want it to be quite a high concentrate, as there's a lot of grease which is hiding between the mesh pieces. So we're going to put that in there, and one of the most important things now is to make sure that you've got your hot water coming out. There's nothing worse than trying to clean grease with stone cold water. It's just a battle you're not going to win. So we're going to fill the sink up quickly. So you can see already that the solution is starting to do its work. The bubbles are a good sign that it's starting to react with the grease. We're going to go over to the extractor and clean all of the grease off that, and I'll show you that process. But what you will notice is when we come back to this, a lot of this you won't be able to see the filters. Now, once this is all clouded over, that's a very good sign that the grease is breaking down, and the reason you can't see it no more is it's actually floating to the surface, which is going to give us a massive head start when it comes to cleaning those. So we'll head back over to the extractor fan now. Alright, so we're back at the extractor unit now, so there's a couple of things I want to run through. We're going to need some good clean cloths. You're going to want at least 4 or 5 of these, because the first cloth is going to take a lot of the brunt of the grease. Rather than use the same cloth for the whole process, you're going to just end up spreading the grease around, and it becomes very difficult to get a good result by the end of it all. So we're going to have good 5 cloths there. You've got a glass cleaner. This is for finishing up at the end, and as you can see, I've got a brand new cloth on the top of this. This is the final process. So this is real good. With a new cloth and some good glass spray, we're going to make sure that as we're wiping everything over, we're giving it a real good buff and a very everlasting shine. So we pop that there. We've got our degreaser. Again, when you're using the degreasers, it's really important you put on a mask and you put on your goggles. It's slightly different to when we put it in the sink. As you see, we were pumping it out of a pump bottle into the sink. You don't necessarily need these. You may want to wear the goggles as an extra precaution, but the mask is not necessary, as we're not atomizing the product. As soon as we put it in the trigger bottle, then we're going to be atomizing the product, which means it's getting very airborne. You're going to want to protect your lungs and your respiratory system. So we're going to pop those there. First thing I'm going to do is pop on some gloves. And I also forgot to mention, we have got the non-scratch Brillo there, the green scourer. So I'm just going to pop these gloves on now, and I can take you through the next steps. Much the same as all of the cleaning, and you know, I've said this in many of my videos before, and it's a very true saying. You'll hear a lot of cleaners saying it, a lot of cleaning companies and owners saying it. Best way to clean is top to bottom. So we're going to start at the top. Naturally, health and safety first. Rather than climb on the worktops and slip and break your leg, we're going to get the step ladder out, and we're going to work from the top. So the first thing we're going to start with is the degreaser. So I'm just going to mask up. Just, you know, depending on the brand you go for. I will pop a link in the description below for this particular one, as it's you know, it's taken me quite a few years to find a good solution, and I just find it works really well. But there's going to be many on the market. You are going to need to take precautions as to what safety measures you put in place. But when you're spraying it, so you're going to want to spray it quite evenly. Make sure you've got the mister on, not the stream. If you've got it on the stream, you're just going to end up with a big mess. What you're looking to do is you're looking to just evenly coat it. You don't want it to be pouring down. You are going to get a little bit of the drips coming down, which is fine, but you don't want it to be pouring off the unit because you're going to then make a mess underneath. And especially when you do the sides, just be very careful not to go a little bit trigger happy. You know, you want to take your time spraying it on. It's not a rush, you know, and what you will find on some of the worst units, you'll actually see the orange start to fall down the unit. Now it's not very obvious on this one due to its condition, but you can see if you look closely there's orange marks coming down where the grease is the worst at the top. Naturally with anything cooking, the heat sends the grease to the top of your kitchen, and that's why everything is a little bit sticky to the touch when you do a lot of hob cooking. So we're just going to make sure everything has a good coat. But you are going to be very careful because when you're spraying this on, you don't want to end up spraying the walls too much. It's okay to get a little bit on there, but if you spray too much on the walls, then you're going to strip the walls. So we're just going to spray the underside again. Don't go too trigger happy because all you're going to be doing is filling your kitchen full of the chemical. So we're going to let that sit for about 2 minutes. You're not going to want to let it stay on there for too long. Again, the chemical is going to break through the grease, and if it's strong enough to break through grease, any long term, when it, if it's on any sort of surface long term, aluminium, you don't want it to do any lasting damage. So we're just going to cut forward a little bit, and hopefully that'll have done its work by the time we get there. Okay, so we're going to go back to the top now. We're going to wipe everything down, give it a real good wipe. And you can see this, now that we've given the chemical a chance to do all the work for us, this is effortless. When I first wiped this down, when we came in, you could actually feel the grease giving a little bit of resistance. It is a little bit of a stubborn part at the top here, you will get it, you know, where you've got a little bit more of a build-up, but again, you can see I'm not breaking a sweat. I'm going to go in hell for leather here and just getting through it, giving it a wipe over. Just wiping evenly over everything. You can see the cloth is actually turning a little orange. So now that we've done the top side, we're going to move to the underside. I no longer need the ladder at this point, so I'm just going to pop this out of the way. And we're going to get between all these switches. So I'm just going to wrap the cloth around my little finger there, just to make sure we get those even. And then we're going to move to the underside. Get in the runners. You want to get in the runners where the filters sit. So again, when you actually refit those, you're going to make sure everything fits back in without any resistance. It's all nice and clean. And what you will find on the underside, some of them, you can wipe them over. They will need another spray, but I'm going to take this off now, because we're not going to be spraying anymore at the moment. But on the underside here, you get what I call spots. So you get your main film of the grease along the bottom, and you can look and think, yeah, that looks great. And then right at the back here, tucked away, which is, you know, again, directly above the back end of the hob where all the steam rolls, and you get the worst of it at the back, you're going to get little spots, little orange spots. So that again is grease. You're just going to need to give that a little bit of a helping hand. So again, a very fine layer of the degreaser, and with the non-scratch scourer, you can just rub it. You haven't got to push hard, you just rub it gently over the top of the glass. Again, sometimes in the runners here might need a little bit more encouragement, and along the sides and the front, just depending on how much cooking has been done and how long it's been left without it clean. So just a little bit of encouragement there. And then the very last thing we're going to do, we're going to clean up our mess from underneath, because again, when you clean from top to bottom, everything from the top falls down. So we've got quite a lot of grease spray which has fallen onto the hob here, by which point we won't have actually cleaned the hob when we start the extractor, so it's not like we're undoing our work. It's best to do top to bottom for that reason. Again, you wouldn't want to clean the hob, get it spick and span, and then say, right, I'm going to now clean my extractor, because you clean the extractor, you've then got to go back to the hob. It's just add into the time, add into the effort, when the key is to try and make life easier for yourself. Get the right tools, get the right chemicals, get the right processes in place. So we're going to finish up by spraying over our extractor cleaner. We're going to get the glass cleaner on there, we're going to get our step ladder back out. So we're going to spray this down. You don't need too much on there, just a fine haze over everything. this is going to give it the finishing non-streak touch. So you just need to roll the cloth. Once you've wiped it over the ones, you're still going to find moisture on the aluminium, and this is part of the reason that you get the streaking in the first place, is where moisture's still present and it hasn't been buffed. Sometimes if the aluminium is a little bit tarnished, it's a little bit worn, a little bit aged, you are going to be up against it. It's a bit of a non-win battle when it comes to trying to get the perfect finish. So one of the sort of tricks, if you want to call it, to making sure that you get a non-streak finish. If the glass cleaner doesn't work for you, that means there's a good chance the aluminium's just kind of had its days, a little bit worn, a little bit old. You can actually use baby oil, quite simple, straight baby oil. You don't want to mix it with anything. What you're doing is you're literally putting a very fine layer of baby oil over the aluminium, and it'll actually stop it getting any sort of streak marks, and it'll also act as a protective barrier. So when you do start cooking again and you're getting the grease and things adding on, you'll find it'll actually clean over much easier next time round, because you're causing that protective barrier between the two. So that is one of the last things you would need to do if the glass cleaner doesn't buff it up perfect. You can rub it over with some baby oil, and that'll give you your perfect finish. Right, last but not least, if you want to follow me back up to the sink, we're going to finish off by cleaning up the extractor unit fan filters, and then we'll be able to pop those back in, and that'll actually complete the extractor fan cleaning for today. Okay, so we're back over at the sink unit. I'm going to push the taps and things out your way, maximise your space. So we're just going to lift the filters out now. You can see everything's clouded over, which is a very good sign. This is actually the grease that you can see in the unit. However, the chemical has broken it down. So when we come to cleaning this off now, it should just fall off with a little bit of encouragement. So I'm just going to pop those back in. I am going to give them a little bit of a rub with my hand. The movement of the water alone with the chemical in, it'll be moving through the filters, and it'll actually break a lot of the grease down. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get a cloth, just give that a good soak, because all the little microfibers in here, they're going to play a very important part for getting in all these little gaps, all these little nooks and crannies into the handles. So you just want to give it a good rub, get right into the edge of the filter, because you want to make sure you get as much grease out as possible. And what you'll see is, quite faintly, there's a couple of little spots on here. Again, these are the little grease spots, as I call them. Just give them a little bit of a rub with a microfiber cloth, and it doesn't take a lot of effort at all, because they've been sitting in the solution. Then it'll actually remove everything quite easily. So one of the important things is really when you have it sitting in this solution, you don't want to get distracted. You want to leave it in here for about 5 minutes, which is as long as it takes really to clean the actual extractor frame, the extractor fan unit. If you leave these in for too long, not knowing what type of chemical is you've got in there are many different forms of degreasers. This particular degreaser, if you was to leave it in here for more than an hour, you take it out and this whole thing would be grey. And it's not salvageable. That is something where the chemical has gone too far, it's started to eat into the material, into the aluminium, and quite frankly, you're at the point where you need to buy new filters. So that would eliminate us even wanting to clean them in the first place. Total waste of time, total waste of money. So really important you don't leave them in there too long. Once you've removed them from the water, rather than prop them upright and you have all the water sitting in the frame down the bottom, you're going to want to try and keep them on an angle so everything comes down the side of the frame. So we're going to pop those over there. We're going to try and balance them up as best we can. Can be a little bit tricky, but sometimes I use the tap to prop them up against the wall. You see it's a lot easier to keep it in place. And we're going to do the same with the filter underneath. We're going to give it a little bit of a rub over, make sure everything's removed, all the grease is out from the frame. Just check everything over thoroughly, make sure it's all removed. And again, we're going to hold it in place. You can see a lot of the water dripping out from the corner, and you can actually see the colour of the water as well. It's looking rather grim at the minute, so there's a lot of the grease has clearly been removed from these filters. This is a very good sign that it's done its work. So we're going to leave that there. We're going to pin it back up against the wall, the same as the other filter. Again, on an angle. If you've got the corners and anything that sits down in here, you can just wipe it up very quickly. We're just going to wring the cloth out. Anything that falls down here, we can mop it up at the end with a cloth. Make sure that our area's clean and tidy. So we're going to give those about 10 minutes to drain out. and then by which point then they'll be ready to tap off, give a quick spray over with a glass cleaner and refit back into the extractor unit. And then I'll just carry on a sec. Ah, the water's going to be a giveaway, isn't it? Oh fuck it, don't matter. Okay, so we're going to drain the water out the sink. We're going to grab our units. So you can see a lot of the water's actually drained out of these now. We're going to give them a very quick wipe over. We've got a damp cloth, it's not bone dry. We're going to give it a quick wipe over. And what you'll find with these units, these mesh units, there's a couple of different layers of mesh. So this is actually a two-part unit. So you've got two pieces of mesh on the outside, and inside you've got an even finer mesh, which is the one that actually catches all of the grease and the dirt and just filters out the air. So sometimes you can get a little bit of moisture trapped between them, and even if you wipe the outside, you think, yeah, it's lovely and dry. You pop it back up in the unit, and about 10-15 minutes later, you've got it dripping all over your hob. So just to be absolutely certain, we're not going to go bashing it, otherwise you're going to damage. Again, aluminium is really soft, it's quite a soft metal, and you can sometimes find that these meshes will pop out of their casings. So we're just going to give it a very quick tap. Again, I'm not going crazy, but you can see it's actually splashing the side of the sink here, and then we're going to wipe off any remaining particles underneath. So that one is actually now ready to go back into the unit. As I said, you can give it a spray with a little bit of glass cleaner to finish it off. This particular one is fine to go back up as it is. I'm going to pop that to the side, and we're going to repeat the process with this one. Ready when you are, lad?
Do you want to be in there?
Yeah, alright, the mind gears, I think you can see all this player.
There we go.
Just fill them in, is it?
Yeah, still going.
Okay. Okay, great, so we're going to do the final touches. As you can see, the filters have come up extremely well. All looking shiny and really pretty, so we're just going to pop these back up. So you've got the two prongs at the back here. It's important they line up to these holes. And we've got a bit of a spring retainer on the front. You can see the teeth disappearing there. Again, we've got the same as this. We've got two gaps on this side which will house those teeth. So we're just going to line these up at the back here, making sure that everything's tight to this one side. And I'm just going to push that there. You can see that's all fitted in. And we're going to do exactly the same here. So we're just going to line these up with the back, pop those in there. So there you have it. We've refitted the mesh filters. One of the very last things I like to do is just give everything another very, very quick wipe over. As I said, we're pretty confident it's clean, but what you can find is sometimes when you're wearing latex gloves, they've got a lot of powder that can sometimes leave coating marks. They may look initially okay when they're slightly wet, but as soon as it dries, it just looks like you haven't even bothered cleaning it. So we wipe it over for that reason. But yeah, that is exactly how you clean an extractor with the right chemicals. The safest way and the most efficient. Thanks very much.